Zelensky Bad News. Putin's plan for Russia and the West involves more than just the Ukraine crisis. Will they adhere to his lead? The road to Lake Baikal in southern Siberia winds through towering pine forests and untouched meadows, passing cemeteries with bright plastic flowers marking the graves of Russians killed in Ukraine. The war is always in plain sight, far from the Potemkin utopia of Moscow. Yulia Rolikova, 35, operates a guest house summer camp for kids on the lake's eastern shore, where white-winged gulls dive into the icy water. Even though she is 3,500 miles away from the front, the war still affects her home life and mental state. "My ex-husband wanted to go fight. He claimed it was his duty," she explained. "And I told him, no, you have an 8-year-old daughter, and it's a much more important duty to be a father to her." She told me this with a look on her face that said, "Mine is just another ordinary Russian life." He finally understood and stayed. That is, the life of a single mother in a country with a high rate of divorce, in a country at war with a neighboring state that President Vladimir V Putin has labeled a faction, and with which tens of millions of Russians share deep cultural and historical ties. "I spent a month in Russia, a country almost as big as the United States and Canada put together, looking for hints that might explain the country's nationalist lurch into an unprovoked war and the mood 17 months into a conflict that was supposed to be a lightning strike but has turned into a lingering nightmare." Since February 24, 2022, American diplomats in Moscow estimate that the war has taken 200,000 lives, roughly split between the two sides, crossing the dizzying expanse that informs Russian assertiveness from Siberia to Belgorod on Russia's western border with Ukraine. "I found a country uncertain of its direction or meaning, torn between the glorious myths that Mr. Putin has cultivated and everyday struggle. I met trepidation and ferocious bellicosity along the way, as well as the dogged endurance required to last through a protracted conflict. I discovered that Homo Sovieticus is still around, albeit in a mutated form, and that its submissive ways have survived. The old Putin playbook of money, myth-making, and the threat of murder has almost held, helped along by the constant propaganda on state television. Though I did hear some vocal dissent, especially from the younger generation in this generationally divided country, I also heard voices of ambivalence like Ms. Rolikova's. This discontent with the war's lack of direction and the apathy of the elite in Moscow and St. Petersburg set the stage for the brief uprising led by Yevgeny V. Prigozhin, the Wagner Group's founder, in late June. Not without reason did he dub his revolution the March for Justice. According to Alexander Bonov, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Russia-Eurasia Center, that Prigozhin rebelled was symptomatic of many social problems, but the way he advanced toward Moscow unhindered also demonstrated nervousness about whether all army units would fight. As one commentator put it, Putin obviously did not want to give an order to fire he was unsure would be implemented.